Ravi and Mira had been looking forward to their new home for months. The small town seemed perfect, with clean streets, quiet evenings, and a friendly smile from every neighbor they met on moving day. Their house stood at the corner of a lane filled with trees that gave shade even in the heat of the afternoon. For Ravi, who worked in a busy office in the city, this place was a dream escape. For Mira, it was a welcome change after years of moving from one military base to another. The first week was filled with unpacking, arranging furniture, and discovering the little joys of their new life. Every morning Ravi and Mira would go for a walk, exploring the park and watching children ride bicycles. They enjoyed the calmness that the town promised. But peace is sometimes thinner than it looks. On the third evening after sunset, they decided to walk back from the park together. The air was cool, and the leaves rustled gently in the breeze. Ravi carried a small bag of groceries, and Mira walked beside him with her usual calm confidence. They were talking about planting flowers in their front yard when the sound of quick footsteps behind them caught Ravi's attention. From the shadows near the community gate, a man stepped out. He was tall and broad, wearing a jacket with the word HOA security stitched across the chest. His presence was sudden and surprising. Ravi thought he was just another neighbor at first, but then he noticed the man's hand resting firmly on a holstered weapon at his side. His voice was sharp as he spoke. "You two cannot walk here. This is restricted after hours." "Who allowed you inside?" Ravi was startled. He looked around, confused. They had entered the park through the public path that every resident used. It was not restricted, and there were no signs saying so. He tried to explain politely. "We live here. Our house is just down the street. We are returning home." But the man's expression did not soften. Instead, he took a step closer, his eyes narrowing. "Rules are rules. I am in charge here. You cannot just walk wherever you like. Show me your ID or leave." Ravi felt his throat tighten. The tone of the man was not professional. It was not the way real security spoke. Something felt wrong. He glanced at Mira, expecting her to look as uneasy as he was, but her face was calm. Her eyes studied the man carefully, observing the way he stood, the way he moved, and the way he kept one hand too close to his weapon. Mira spoke for the first time, her voice steady and clear. "We are residents. You do not have to raise your voice. Step back and explain yourself properly." The man did not like her tone. He frowned and shifted his weight forward as if trying to appear more intimidating. He repeated that they were trespassing and added that he had the authority to remove them by force if necessary. His words carried an edge of threat, though he had no official badge or ID visible. Ravi's heartbeat grew faster. He was not used to confrontations, and he felt trapped in a situation that made no sense. He wanted to grab Mira's hand and walk away, but the man blocked the path. Mira, however, remained still. She was used to reading situations under pressure. From the way this man held himself, she could tell he had no formal training. His stance was sloppy, his eyes restless, and his hands shaky despite the tough tone he used. He was trying to act like someone he was not. "Step aside," Mira said firmly. "We have not broken any rule. You are making a mistake." The man's eyes flickered with irritation. He was not expecting resistance. Most people probably gave in to his loud voice and fake authority. But Mira's confidence made him pause for a second. He tightened his jaw and snapped back, "Do not tell me what is a mistake. I am the law here." Ravi could not believe what he was hearing. The man was clearly not a police officer, not even proper neighborhood security. His words sounded more like an act, a performance meant to frighten people. Ravi wanted to argue, but his voice failed him. All he could do was watch his wife stand calmly between him and the stranger. At that moment, Ravi remembered something Mira had once told him. She had said that true strength does not need to be loud. True strength is quiet, steady, and certain. Looking at her now, he finally understood. She was not shaken, not even slightly. She looked like someone who had been through situations far worse than this. The man seemed to sense it too, though he did not understand why. He shifted uneasily, still gripping the holster but unsure whether to act or step back. The silence stretched for a moment. The street was empty except for the three of them. The sound of leaves moving in the wind was the only background to the tense standoff. Ravi's fear grew with every second, but Mira's calm presence began to steady him. If she was not afraid, maybe he should not be either. He took a deep breath and stood a little straighter beside her. The man finally broke the silence. "This is your last warning. Show ID or leave now." Mira did not move an inch. She met his gaze and spoke slowly so every word carried weight. "We live here. You are blocking our way. If you truly represent the neighborhood, then act properly. If not, then stop pretending." Her words hit the man harder than Ravi expected. His eyes widened for a moment, as if someone had peeled away the mask he was wearing. His hand twitched at his side, but he did not pull the weapon. Instead, he scowled and muttered something under his breath. Ravi could sense that this was not over. The man was not ready to back down, and Mira was not going to let him bully them. Something was about to shift, and the air felt heavy with tension. That evening walk, meant to be a simple routine, had turned into the beginning of a story that neither Ravi nor Mira would forget. The quiet neighborhood they thought was so peaceful was hiding secrets, and they had just stepped into the middle of one. The man in the jacket stood firmly in front of Ravi and Mira, still trying to hold on to his act of authority. His voice was raised, his body tense, but his eyes betrayed something else. They showed uncertainty, the kind that appears when someone is not sure of their own strength. Ravi felt his palms sweating. He had never been in a situation like this before. He wanted to call someone for help, but at the same time, he felt frozen in place. He looked at Mira and was amazed to see that she had not lost her calm. She stood as if she had all the time in the world, watching every move the man made, every flicker of doubt in his face. Mira knew one important truth from her training. People who pretend to hold power usually reveal themselves quickly. They make small mistakes, and those mistakes can be used to take control of the situation. The man in front of her had already made many. He had spoken without showing proper identification, he had blocked the path in a place that was clearly not restricted, and most of all, he had shown fear. She stepped slightly forward, forcing the man to take a half step back. Her voice remained even. "You are acting like you are in charge, but your actions do not match the role. If you are truly responsible for this neighborhood, then you should act with respect. Right now you are only proving that you are not prepared." The words hit him directly. His jaw tightened, and for a moment, he could not find a reply. Ravi noticed his hesitation and felt a small wave of relief. But then the man raised his chin again, trying to cover his insecurity with a louder voice. "You do not tell me what is right or wrong. I have rules to follow. You are breaking them, and I will not allow it." Mira's eyes never left his. She did not raise her voice, but she allowed her authority to flow through every word. "You are not following rules. You are inventing them. That is the mistake you are making, and it will not end well for you. The man flinched, almost as if the words had struck him. He glanced to the side, perhaps to see if anyone else was watching, but the street remained empty. Neighbors were indoors, unaware of the tense standoff taking place outside. Ravi could feel his chest rising and falling faster with every breath. He wanted to support his wife, but he knew that if he spoke in anger, it might only make things worse. So he stayed quiet and trusted her to lead. Mira decided it was time to test the man's confidence. She asked a direct question. "What is your name?" The man blinked, caught off guard. "Why do you need to know? Because if you truly belong to the HOA security, you will have no problem telling us your name and showing identification," Mira replied. The silence that followed was heavy. The man's lips parted, but no answer came. Instead, he shifted on his feet, avoiding her eyes. That was all Mira needed. His authority was a mask, and now it was beginning to fall apart. "You see," she said calmly, "you cannot even answer a simple question. That is not how real security behaves." Ravi felt a sense of pride rise in him. His wife was not only standing firm but also dismantling the false authority of the man step by step. But the man was not ready to admit defeat. He grew more restless, his hand twitching closer to his side as if to remind them of the weapon he carried. He thought this display of power would give him control again, but it only revealed his weakness further. A confident professional would not need to rely on silent threats. Mira noticed the movement but did not allow fear to show. She had faced greater dangers before, and she understood that the key to control was to remain steady when the other side lost balance. Her voice was strong as she spoke again. "Do not reach for that. It will not help you. You are already making too many mistakes. If you continue, those mistakes will bring real consequences." The man's breath grew heavier. Ravi could almost see the conflict happening in his mind. He wanted to dominate, but deep down, he knew he had been exposed. He realized that the woman standing before him was not afraid, not even slightly. For the first time, Ravi noticed a flicker of doubt in the man's expression. His shoulders dropped just a little, and his eyes darted around nervously. It was a small shift, but it meant the balance of power had already changed. Mira stepped forward again, this time with clear authority. She spoke firmly. "You need to leave now. You are not acting as a protector. You are acting as a threat. Walk away before you make your situation worse." The words carried such weight that Ravi almost believed the man would retreat immediately. But pride is a heavy chain, and the man still tried to hold on to his false role. His voice cracked slightly as he replied, "I am only doing my job." Mira shook her head. "No, you are not. This is not your job. You are pretending, and that is why you are failing. Stop now." The silence stretched once more. Ravi could hear the faint sound of a dog barking in the distance, and the hum of a street light above them. Time seemed to slow down. Finally, the man stepped back half a pace. His eyes narrowed, but his voice had lost the power it once carried. "This is not over." Ravi's body relaxed a little, though he remained tense. He realized the man was retreating, but he also understood that the situation was far from finished. The words "this is not over" were not just empty. They carried a promise that the conflict would continue in some form. Mira watched him carefully as he turned and walked down the path, his steps heavy with frustration. She did not relax until he was completely out of sight. Only then did she turn to Ravi. "Are you all right?" she asked. Ravi nodded, though his voice trembled. "Yes, But what just happened? Why was he acting like that? Mira's gaze lingered on the direction the man had gone. Her voice was calm, but her words carried warning. Because he thought he could control us with fear. He made the mistake of choosing the wrong people to test. Ravi looked at her with wide eyes. Do you think he will come back? Mira placed a reassuring hand on his arm. If he does, we will be ready. For now, let us go home. They continued their walk, but the evening no longer felt peaceful. The shadows seemed heavier, and the silence of the street felt different. Ravi realized that their new neighborhood was not as simple as it first appeared. Beneath its calm surface, there were dangers waiting to be uncovered. And he knew one thing for certain. His wife was not only prepared for those dangers, she was the one person who could face them without fear. The night after the strange encounter, Ravi could not sleep well. Every sound outside the window made him uneasy. A car passing on the street, the creak of the wooden fence, even the rustle of leaves kept pulling him out of half-sleep. He kept thinking about the man in the jacket and the way he had spoken, as if he owned the entire neighborhood. Mira, however, was calm. She sat at the kitchen table early in the morning with a notebook in front of her. She was not writing much, only a few short lines. Ravi joined her with tired eyes and asked what she was doing. I am noting details, Mira said simply. What he wore, what he said, how he behaved. These things matter. They tell me what kind of person we are dealing with. Ravi sat down and rubbed his forehead. I still do not understand. Why would someone pretend to be security for the homeowners association? It makes no sense. Mira closed the notebook and gave him a steady look. People pretend when they want control. It is easier to scare others than to earn their trust. He wants power in this place, but he is not qualified to have it. Ravi felt a chill. He remembered the man's words, this is not over. It was not just a threat. It was a promise. Later that day, Ravi went to work in the city while Mira stayed home to arrange the house. But she was not only unpacking boxes. She was watching carefully. From the living room window she could see the street corner. She noticed cars coming and going, people walking their dogs, children riding bicycles. For hours nothing seemed out of place. Then, in the afternoon, she saw him again. The same man, still wearing the HOA security jacket. He was not walking with purpose this time. He was loitering near the mailboxes, watching houses one by one. Mira noticed that when a resident came near, he would straighten his back and pretend to check something on his phone, as if he were doing official work. But when the resident left, he went back to scanning the area with suspicious eyes. Mira quietly stepped outside, pretending to water the small flowers in the yard. From there, she had a better view of him. She could tell he was restless, shifting from one foot to the other, looking over his shoulder too often. He was trying to look like he belonged, but his body language betrayed him again. When Ravi returned in the evening, Mira told him what she had seen. His face grew pale. So he is still hanging around. What does he want? Mira shook her head. That is what we need to find out. But one thing is clear. He is watching the neighborhood, not protecting it. Ravi felt fear rising again, but Mira's calm tone helped him steady himself. She had a way of speaking that turned panic into focus. He asked her what they should do next. We will not confront him directly this time, Mira said. We will observe. If he tries again, we will have more proof of what he is really doing. That night, Ravi and Mira decided to take another walk. This time Ravi was nervous, but Mira's presence gave him courage. They walked slowly, not far from their house, staying on the well-lit path. Sure enough, as they turned a corner, the man appeared again. He stepped forward, his voice sharp as before. "I told you not to walk around after hours. You people never listen." Ravi felt his heart race, but before he could reply, Mira spoke. Her voice was stronger this time, leaving no room for doubt. "You are the one who is not listening. You have no right to stop us. You do not have authority here." The man hesitated. He had expected them to shrink away, but instead he was facing someone who stood taller with every word. He pointed at them with a trembling hand. "You think you can ignore my rules? You think I will allow that?" Mira took one step forward, closing the distance between them. Her posture changed slightly, no longer casual but firm and commanding. She looked straight into his eyes and spoke with precision. "I do not think. I know. You are not in charge here. And the more you pretend, the more mistakes you make. You cannot scare us. You have already lost control." Ravi watched in awe as the man's confidence began to crumble again. It was visible in his shoulders, in his eyes, in the way his voice cracked when he tried to answer. "You do not know who I am." Mira did not blink. "I know exactly who you are. You are someone pretending to be what you are not. That is all." The words cut deep. Ravi could almost feel the man's anger, but also his fear. He had tried to build power out of thin air, but now it was collapsing in front of him. The silence stretched, broken only by the sound of the streetlight buzzing overhead. For the first time, Ravi noticed something else. A neighbor had opened a curtain across the street, watching the scene. Another door creaked slightly, someone peeking outside. People were beginning to notice. The man in the jacket shifted uneasily, realizing his performance was no longer hidden. Mira's eyes stayed fixed on him. "Leave now," she commanded. "Before more people see you for what you are." The man's face twisted with frustration. He wanted to fight back with words, but the strength had left his voice. He glanced at the watching neighbors, then turned sharply and walked away into the night. Ravi let out a breath he had not realized he was holding. His knees felt weak, but at the same time, he felt pride building in his chest. His wife had turned the situation completely. She had not only stood firm but also forced the man to retreat without raising her voice. As they walked home, Ravi asked her how she stayed so calm. Mira looked at him with a small smile. "Because panic never helps. The one who remains calm controls the moment." He was never in control. He only thought he was. Now he knows the truth. Ravi nodded, still amazed. But he also knew something important. The man would not give up easily. His pride had been wounded, and people like him did not forget such things. That night, as Ravi lay in bed, he could not shake the image of the man's face when Mira had spoken with such certainty. It was the face of someone who had been exposed. But behind that face was a promise of return. Mira, however, rested peacefully beside him. For her, the shift had already happened. The man might return, but the balance of control was no longer in his favor. And Ravi understood one thing more clearly than ever. His wife was not only his partner in life. She was the strongest shield he could ever have. The next morning began with a strange silence in the neighborhood. The usual sound of children riding bicycles, dogs barking at the mailman, and neighbors greeting one another was missing. Ravi noticed it first when he stepped outside to fetch the newspaper. The street felt different, as if the night's events had left an invisible mark that everyone could sense. When he returned inside, Mira was already at the table with a cup of tea. She looked calm, but Ravi could tell she was deep in thought. "He will return," she said quietly. Ravi sat down across from her. "But what does he want, Mira? Why keep coming back if everyone is starting to notice his behavior?" Mira leaned back in her chair. "Because he is trying to prove something. People like him do not accept defeat easily. He wants to hold power, even if it is built on lies. But last night, he realized that power is slipping away. That makes him desperate. Desperation can be dangerous." Ravi shivered at her words. He wanted to believe that the man would just give up and leave them alone. But deep down, he knew she was right. That afternoon, while Ravi was at work, Mira walked through the neighborhood. She greeted a few neighbors, asked simple questions, and listened carefully. She learned that the man had been around for weeks before they arrived. Some residents had believed him when he introduced himself as part of the homeowner's security team. He would walk around, act strict, and claim he was keeping the community safe. Others had doubted him but stayed quiet because they did not want trouble. One elderly neighbor whispered to Mira, "He makes people nervous, but no one has challenged him until now." Mira understood then why the man had been so unsettled during their encounters. He was not used to resistance. He was used to people lowering their heads and obeying without question. She had broken that pattern, and in doing so, she had revealed his weakness. Later that evening, when Ravi returned, Mira told him everything she had learned. Ravi was shocked. "So everyone was just letting him act like this all this time?" Mira nodded. "Fear kept them silent. But fear can be broken." Just as she finished speaking, a knock came at their door. Ravi froze, but Mira moved calmly to answer. It was one of the neighbors, a young man named Arun, holding his little daughter's hand. He looked uneasy. "I saw what happened last night," Arun said. "Many of us did. People are talking. We have questions. Is it true he is not real security?" Mira gave a firm nod. "It is true. He has no authority. He is pretending, and that is dangerous for all of us." Arun sighed with relief. "I knew something was wrong. But I did not know what to do." "You stood up to him. Everyone saw it." That night, word spread quietly through the neighborhood. Mira and Ravi noticed more people greeting them, more eyes filled with cautious hope. For the first time, the man's false image of control was beginning to crack, not only because of Mira's strength but because the neighbors now had the truth. But the man himself was not gone. Near midnight, Ravi woke up to a faint noise outside. He moved to the window and pulled back the curtain. At first, he thought it was his imagination, but then he saw him. The man in the jacket was standing at the edge of their yard, watching the house. His figure was dark in the glow of the streetlight. Ravi's breath caught in his chest. He wanted to shout, but Mira was already awake. She placed a hand on his shoulder and whispered, "Stay calm." She moved silently to the front door, peered through the glass, and confirmed it was him. Then she returned to Ravi. "He is testing us again. He wants to scare us. But fear is his only weapon." Ravi swallowed hard. "What do we do?" Mira's eyes were sharp. "We let him see that fear has no place here." She walked outside slowly, without hesitation. Ravi wanted to stop her, but something in her posture told him not to interfere. She stepped onto the porch, and her voice rang clear in the night. "Why are you here again?" The man shifted his weight, his shadow stretching across the street. "I told you this is not over. You think you can make me look weak in front of others. You think I will let that stand? Mira took one step forward. You made yourself look weak. I only told the truth. And now everyone sees it. His face darkened. He clenched his fists at his sides, his jaw tight. They will fear me again. You cannot protect them forever. Mira's reply was calm, steady, and final. They no longer fear you. And as long as I am here, you will never hold power over them again. The man froze at her words. For a moment, Ravi thought he might rush forward, but instead he turned sharply and walked away into the shadows. When Mira returned inside, Ravi looked at her with wide eyes. You are not afraid at all, are you? She placed a hand on his arm. Fear is natural. But I have faced worse than this. What matters is not letting fear guide our actions. Ravi felt both relief and admiration. He realized that what had just happened was more than another confrontation. It was a turning point. The man had been exposed fully, not only to them but to the entire neighborhood. He could no longer hide behind his false authority. Over the next few days, more neighbors came to speak with Ravi and Mira. They shared their own stories of how the man had tried to intimidate them. Some had avoided walking at night. Others had followed his false rules just to avoid conflict. Now, with the truth out, they felt braver. Together, they decided to report him to the proper authorities. Mira guided them, explaining how to give details clearly and calmly. She reminded them that their strength as a community was greater than the fear of one man pretending to be powerful. That evening, as Ravi and Mira sat in their living room, Ravi finally felt something he had not felt since moving into the neighborhood: peace. He turned to his wife with gratitude in his eyes. You changed everything, Mira. You showed him, and you showed all of us, that fear does not win. Mira gave a small smile. It was not me alone. Truth always wins. Sometimes it just needs someone to speak it first. Outside, the neighborhood felt alive again. Children played, neighbors chatted on their porches, and the air was lighter. The man's shadow still lingered in memory, but his hold was broken. The reveal had changed everything. The following week brought a mix of calm and tension. The man in the jacket had disappeared after the late-night confrontation, but the memory of his presence still hung over the neighborhood. People spoke about him in hushed tones, sharing bits of what they had seen or experienced. For the first time, the community was united in one voice. They knew he was not what he claimed to be. Ravi felt lighter each day as neighbors grew braver. They began walking in the evenings again, chatting outside their houses, and even holding small gatherings in front yards. It was as if the darkness the man had cast was slowly lifting. But Ravi also knew the story was not over until justice was served. One evening, a group of neighbors gathered at Ravi and Mira's house. They wanted to decide what to do next. Arun, the young father who had first visited them, spoke with determination. We cannot allow him to return. If we stay quiet, he will find a way back. We need to make this official. Others nodded in agreement. An elderly woman added, for weeks I thought he was real security. I even thanked him once for keeping us safe. Now I feel foolish. But no more. We must stand together. Mira listened to everyone, then spoke with steady authority. You are right. Silence allowed him to grow bold. But together, we can end it. We will report everything we know. Each detail matters, each story helps. Ravi admired how his wife spoke. She did not raise her voice, but every word carried weight. By the time she finished, every neighbor in the room looked more confident than when they had entered. The next morning, Mira and a few residents went to the local police station. They explained the situation carefully. They described the man's jacket, his threats, and the way he had pretended to be in charge of the neighborhood. The officers listened closely and took notes. When Mira spoke, the room grew silent, her calm delivery leaving no doubt that she was telling the truth. The officer in charge assured them, "We will look into this. Impersonating security is serious. Thank you for coming forward." Days passed, and the neighborhood waited. Mira kept watch from time to time, but there was no sign of the man. Ravi began to relax again, though he noticed his wife never truly let her guard down. She always moved with quiet readiness, as if expecting something more. Then, one evening, the police arrived with news. They had identified the man. He was not part of any security team, not connected to the homeowners association, and not a resident of the neighborhood. He had a record of causing disturbances in other areas, always trying to create control where none was his to claim. Now, with the testimonies of the neighbors, they had enough to act. Hearing this, Ravi felt a deep relief. The danger was no longer a shadow hanging over them. It had a name, a history, and now, consequences. That night, the neighbors gathered again, this time outside under the soft glow of porch lights. The air was filled with laughter, something Ravi had not heard in weeks. Children played freely, and the adults spoke without fear. It was as if the entire neighborhood had been given new life. Arun raised his voice so everyone could hear. "We are safe now because we stood together." But it began because one person refused to be afraid. Mira showed us what courage looks like. The neighbors clapped, and Ravi felt pride swell in his chest. He looked at his wife, who accepted the praise with a small smile. She did not seek attention, but her strength had changed everything. Later, as the crowd thinned and the night grew quiet, Ravi and Mira sat on their porch. Ravi turned to her with gratitude in his eyes. "You saved all of us, Mira. If you had not spoken up, he might still be out there, pretending, scaring people." Mira looked out at the street, her voice calm. "It was not only me. The truth is stronger than fear." Once the truth was revealed, everyone found their voice. That is what ended his hold. Ravi nodded. "But you were the one who started it. You were the one who stood firm when the rest of us could not." Mira gave a soft laugh. "That is what training teaches you. Stay calm, observe, and act when needed. It is not about showing power. It is about knowing when fear has no place." Ravi reached for her hand. "I will never forget how you faced him. To me, you are more than strong. You are unshakable." The night breeze carried the scent of flowers from nearby gardens. The street, once a place of tension, now felt like home again. Ravi realized that their move to this neighborhood had brought them more than just a house. It had given them a chance to see the strength within their community, and most of all, the strength within Mira. A few days later, the Homeowners Association held an official meeting. They thanked Mira and Ravi for standing up and helping reveal the truth. They promised better communication and proper security in the future, so no one could take advantage of the community again. As the meeting ended, several neighbors came forward to thank Mira personally. One woman said with emotion, "I was too afraid to speak when he stopped me near the park. But because of you, I found courage again. You gave all of us our peace back." Mira smiled politely but replied, "You always had courage. Sometimes it just needs a spark to show itself." That evening, Ravi and Mira walked through the park once more. The path was peaceful, the lamps glowing warmly. Ravi carried no fear in his chest, only gratitude. When they reached the quiet corner where the first confrontation had happened, Ravi paused. He remembered how his heart had raced that night, how powerless he had felt. Now, standing in the same place, he felt different. Stronger. He looked at Mira. "You changed this place forever." She looked back at him with calm eyes. "No. We changed it together. And now it is truly home." The shadows no longer carried menace. The silence no longer felt heavy. The neighborhood was alive, united, and free from the false power of one man. And as they walked back toward their house, Ravi knew one truth with absolute certainty. No matter what challenges lay ahead, with Mira by his side, there was nothing to fear.